I never should have clicked that link. It all started as a joke among friends, late night talks about the dark web and its rumored horrors. We laughed, dared each other to explore the depths of it, and eventually, the curiosity got the better of me. One night, after far too many beers and a little too much bravado, I decided to take the plunge. I downloaded the necessary tools, masked my IP address, and dove in. At first, it was boring. Just sketchy marketplaces, conspiracy forums, and old sites long abandoned. I thought I'd waste hours and find nothing of interest. But then, I stumbled on a link that caught my eye. The contest. The description was vague. Prove yourself. Earn rewards beyond your wildest dreams. Only the brave should enter. It didn't seem like much, just a random page with a flashy title. But something about it felt wrong, like it was watching me. Still, maybe it was the beers talking, or maybe I was just too curious for my own good. But I clicked on it. The page loaded slowly, like it was hesitating, unsure if it should let me in. When it finally came up, the background was jet black with crimson text that read, "Welcome to the contest. Only the brave continue. Do you accept the challenge?" Below that was a button. Accept. My heart raced a bit. The air in my room felt heavier. But I told myself it was just a game. Some weird scavenger hunt. And besides, I could always close the browser if it got too weird, right? I clicked accept. The screen flickered, and for a split second, I thought my laptop was about to crash. But then the page reloaded with new instructions. Challenge 1. Prove your devotion. Give us a piece of yourself. There was a countdown timer at the top of the screen. 5 minutes. I stared at the message, unsure what it meant. A piece of myself. Was it asking for information, like my address or phone number? No way. I wasn't stupid enough to do that. But as the timer ticked down, I started feeling a sense of urgency. The cursor blinked, waiting for me to type something. I considered closing the page, but something held me there. It was almost as if the screen was pulsing, beckoning me. With 30 seconds left, I panicked and typed the first thing that came to mind, my entire full name. The timer stopped, and the screen went blank for a moment before loading again. Well done. You have given us a piece. Now, for the next challenge, prove your willingness to sacrifice. Record yourself doing something unforgettable. Below it was an upload button and a prompt. You have 10 minutes. A chill ran down my spine. My hand hovered over the mouse, ready to close the browser, but something stopped me. A morbid curiosity? Maybe. Or perhaps it was the subtle hum coming from my laptop that felt alive. I decided to play along. I grabbed my phone and recorded myself doing something harmless. I knocked over a shelf of books. I figured it was silly, but it might be enough to satisfy this twisted game. When I uploaded the video, the page refreshed with another message. You can do better than that. Don't insult us. You have 5 minutes to redeem yourself. The message blinked on the screen, the red text feeling more aggressive than before. My palms were sweaty. I looked around my room, heart pounding. Was this a joke? Was someone watching me? I didn't have time to think. The timer was counting down again. This time, faster. In my panic, I grabbed a pair of scissors from my desk and pressed record on my phone again. Without really thinking, I cut a small lock of my hair and held it up to the camera. My heart raced as I uploaded the video, hoping that would be enough. The screen went dark again for a moment, before new text appeared. Better. You're learning, but you must go further. I froze, staring at the screen. My scalp tingled where I'd cut the hair, and I felt a strange sense of nausea building inside of me. This wasn't normal. This wasn't just a game. The next challenge appeared. Final challenge. Prove you are ready to win. Bring someone else into the contest. There was an invitation link with a countdown. 3 minutes. No, I muttered under my breath, shaking my head. This had gone too far now. I wasn't going to drag anyone else into this sick joke. I hovered over the X to close the page, but before I could click, my phone buzzed. I glanced down at my phone and felt my blood run cold. It was a text from an unknown number. You can't leave now. Finish the contest. My throat went dry. I looked around my room, half expecting someone to be standing behind me. My mind raced. How did they get my number? Another message popped up on the screen. Don't disobey us. Send the invitation or face the consequences. The timer was almost out. I had 1 minute left. My hands were shaking, my breath shallow. I wasn't going to send the invite. I wasn't going to dare drag anyone else into this madness. But as the timer ticked down, I realized something. If they had my full name, if they had my phone number, what else did they know? My family? My friends? With trembling hands, I copied the link and pasted it into a text message. I hesitated for what felt like an eternity before sending it to an old acquaintance. Someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Someone far removed from my life. I told myself that would be fine. They wouldn't click it. No one would be stupid enough to do what I had just done. The page refreshed one final time. Congratulations. You've won the contest. That was it? No fanfare? No prize? Just a simple message. The countdown was gone, and the screen remained static. I stared at it, waiting for something else to happen. Then, my phone buzzed again. Another text from the same unknown number. Check your front door. My stomach dropped. Every instinct of me told me not to move, not to go near the door. But against my better judgment, I stood up and crept towards it. My heart was hammering in my chest as I reached for the doorknob. I opened the door slowly. There was nothing there, just the quiet hallway of my apartment. But when I looked down, I saw a small, black box sitting on the floor. It had no markings, no return address, nothing. My hands shook as I picked it up. It was lighter than I expected. I hesitated, unsure if I should open it. But I did. Inside was a single object. My phone buzzed again with one final message. The real contest has only just begun. I stared at the object in the box, feeling the blood drain from my face. It was a lock of my own hair. Ever since that night, strange things have started happening to me. Unexplainable things. The lights in my house flicker, the shadows in my apartment seem to move on their own, and at night, I hear whispers. Whispers calling my name. I don't know what I've done, what I've unleashed, but I do know one thing for sure. I'm not alone anymore. And whatever I've brought into my life won't leave until it's finished playing its game. I should have known better, but curiosity always gets the best of me. And that night, It nearly cost me my life. I had been hearing about the dark web for years. My friends told me it was a pool of illegal activities, but what intrigued me most were the whispered rumors of something far worse. Darker places where you could witness things that shouldn't be real, where the lines between fantasy and reality blurred. I was never one for ghost stories or horror movies. They always felt contrived, something to scare kids around a campfire. But the idea of seeing something genuinely unexplainable, that got my heart racing. One evening, after hours of scouring forums and guides on how to access the dark web safely, I decided to give it a try. The first few hours were mundane. Black markets, forums discussing hacking methods, and cryptic chat rooms full of faceless people. It was strange, but not terrifying. I was about to call it quits when I stumbled upon a link. The Watcher. It was buried deep in a thread about urban legends surrounding the dark web. Most of the replies warned you against clicking on it, but a few said that if you wanted to see something truly horrific, something that would change the way you viewed the world, this was the place. Of course, my adrenaline was already pumping, so without much thought, I clicked. The page that loaded was simple, a black background with red flickering text that read, "He is watching. He knows you are here." Underneath was a single button that said, "Enter." I hesitated. Something felt wrong, but I had come this far. I pressed the button. For a moment, nothing had happened. Then my screen flickered, and a live video feed appeared. It was a dimly lit room, maybe a basement. There was a single chair in the center, facing the camera. The feed was grainy, and it looked like no one was in the room at first. Then, from the shadows, a figure slowly emerged. He was tall, unnaturally tall, with limbs that seemed too long for his body. His face was obscured by a mask, white, featureless, with two small holes where his eyes should be. He stood still, staring at the camera, at me. I stared back, half expecting a jump scare or some cheesy horror trick, but nothing happened. He just stood there, watching. Minutes passed. I felt a strange pressure building in my chest, an anxiety I couldn't quite explain. I moved my mouse to close the tab, but it wouldn't let me. The cursor wouldn't move. I tried to force close the browser. Still nothing. Then, the man tilted his head slightly, as if he knew I was trying to leave. Slowly, he raised a hand and waved at the camera. The gesture was eerily calm, almost mocking. My blood ran cold. Before I could even process what was happening, my phone buzzed on my desk. I glanced down and felt my stomach drop. "Do you think you can hide from me?" The message was from a number I didn't recognize. I scrambled to check if my webcam was on, but it wasn't. How was he seeing me? Another message came in. "I'm closer than you think." I tried turning off my computer, but it wouldn't shut down. The feed on the screen remained, static hissing faintly from the speakers. The man in the video didn't move. He just kept watching, head slightly cocked, waiting. Then, the video feed flickered, and the scene in the basement shifted. My heart sank as I recognized the new location. It was my street. The camera zoomed in slowly, stopping just before the view of my house. I stood up so fast my chair toppled over. I rushed to the window and peered outside, but everything looked normal. No strange figure, no camera, just the quiet street under the dim glow of streetlights. I should have felt relief, but the fear was gnawing at my insides, telling me that something was horribly wrong. My phone buzzed again. I'm here. I backed away from the window, feeling sick to my stomach. The man in the mask, he was toying with me. I didn't know how, but I knew I wasn't safe. I grabbed my keys and darted to the front door, my only thought being to get out of there. The moment I stepped outside, I saw him, standing at the far end of the street, motionless. He wasn't sprinting toward me like in some horror movie. No, he just stood there, watching. I bolted to my car, fumbling with the keys as panic overtook my senses. When I finally got the door open, I threw myself inside and locked the doors. My breathing was ragged, my hands shaking so badly I could barely start the car. When I glanced in the rearview mirror, my heart nearly stopped. He was closer. I didn't see him move. I hadn't heard footsteps, but there he was, halfway down the street, still standing, still watching. I slammed my foot on the gas, the tires screeching as I sped away. My only thought was to put as much distance between me and that thing as possible. But no matter how far I drove, the unease wouldn't leave me. I kept checking my mirrors, expecting to see him. After what felt like hours, I finally pulled over in a random parking lot, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. I was shaking, trying to convince myself that I had imagined it, that this was just some kind of sick prank. But then my phone buzzed once more. You can't run from me. I looked around, scanning the empty parking lot, the quiet street beyond it. No sign of him, no sign of anyone. But that didn't matter. I could feel him. He was still watching, and he wasn't going to stop. That was 2 nights ago. Since then, I haven't slept. Every time I close my eyes, I see him, standing in the shadows, waiting. I've unplugged my computer, thrown away my phone, and yet the messages still keep coming. I'm writing this as a warning. If you ever stumble across a link called The Watcher on the dark web, don't click on it. Don't be curious like I was. Because once he sees you, he never stops watching. And if you're unlucky like me, he might decide to follow you. I've always had a curiosity about the hidden corners of the internet. It started with the fascination for conspiracy theories and urban legends, but I wanted more. I craved to understand what truly lay beyond the surface, beneath Google, beneath Reddit, deep down in the place where normal people feared to tread, the dark web. It wasn't that hard to find. After a few hours of research and tinkering with Tor, I found myself in a part of the internet that felt alien. There were forums with cryptic names, strange marketplaces, and anonymous users whose profiles were nothing but a single letter or a symbol. Most of it seemed like mundane stuff. Drugs, fake passports, black market goods. I was kinda disappointed at first. The air of mystery faded quickly. I guess I expected something more sinister. Then, one night, I stumbled upon The Mirror. It was a thread buried deep within the dark web forums. The title was in broken English, but it was the description that intrigued me. Look inside, see for yourself. No other details, just a link. I hesitated for a moment. Every instinct screamed that this was a bad idea. But that same curiosity that got me here in the first place pushed me forward. I clicked. The screen went black for a moment, and then it loaded. A grainy, pixelated image appeared. It was a live feed from a camera, though the picture was too dark to make out anything. The sound was just static, occasionally interrupted by faint whispers. I stared at the screen, trying to figure out what I was looking at, but nothing happened. Frustrated, I moved my mouse to close the window. That's when the whispers stopped, and the camera feed changed. The new image made my skin crawl. It was a dimly lit room, almost like a basement, with concrete walls and a single wooden chair in the center. But it wasn't the room that unsettled me. It was what was on the chair. Someone was sitting there. The figure was draped in a thick black cloak, their face obscured. I watched, frozen, as the figure slowly lifted their head, revealing the faint outline of a mask, white and expressionless. A feeling of dread washed over me, but I couldn't look away. Then the whispers returned, but this time they were clearer. I could make out faint words. Look deeper. See what you've become. Before I could react, the screen flickered again, and the figure was gone. Instead, the camera zoomed out, showing the whole room. It was then that I noticed something even more disturbing. There was another camera in the corner, pointed directly at the chair. The camera was familiar. It was the same model I had on my desk. My heart raced as I grabbed my phone and switched on the flashlight, scanning my room. Nothing. Just my messy desk, my chair, and my computer in front of me. But when I glanced back at the screen, the static intensified, and the camera feed zoomed in again. This time, it wasn't just the chair that I saw on the screen. I saw myself. I was sitting there, in that basement room, on the same wooden chair, wearing the same clothes. The figure in the cloak was standing behind me, leaning over, whispering something in my ear. My real-life chair squeaked as I pushed it back, my heart pounding so loudly that it drowned out the static. This had to be a trick, some kind of deep fake or a simulation. But the details were too perfect. It wasn't a recording, it was live. The whispering continued on the feed, the cloaked figure leaning closer to the version of me in the chair, its face almost touching mine. Then I heard it, through the speakers, clear as day. You can't look away now. I slammed my laptop shut, but the whispering continued. The sound didn't stop. In fact, it was growing louder, more distinct, like someone was right behind me. I whipped around, but the room was empty. My chest felt tight, and my breathing became shallow. Panicking, I ripped out the battery from my laptop and threw it across the room. The whispering stopped, but the tension remained. For a moment, the silence was comforting. I took a deep breath, trying to collect myself. But then, my phone vibrated. With trembling hands, I unlocked it. A notification popped up from an unknown number. Look behind you. My blood turned cold. I didn't want to turn around. I couldn't. But something pulled me, an unseen force, like gravity, compelling me to glance over my shoulder. Slowly, I turned my head. At first, there was nothing. just the dimly lit corner of my room. But then, in the shadows, I saw it. A figure in a black cloak, standing still, watching me. I froze, every muscle in my body locked in terror. Then it moved. The cloaked figure stepped forward, the outline of its white mask emerging from the darkness. I shot out of the chair, backing up against my wall, my heart threatening to explode. My phone buzzed again, but I didn't dare look at it. My entire focus was on the figure. It reached for me. My vision blurred as I scrambled for the door, yanking it open and fleeing into the hallway. I ran, not stopping until I was outside, gulping in the cool night air. My mind raced. Was it real? Was I hallucinating? I didn't know, but I couldn't go back. Not after what I'd seen. I spent the night at a friend's house, lying about why I showed up so late. I didn't sleep. The image of the cloaked figure haunted me every time I closed my eyes. And the whispers, those damned whispers, still echoed in my ears. The next morning, I returned home, half convinced that I had imagined the whole thing. But when I opened the door to my room, I stopped dead in my tracks. My laptop was open, even though I had shut it and removed the battery. The camera light was on, and there, in the center of the screen, was a single sentence typed out in plain text. You looked. Now we look inside of you.